Having a Gas is the podcast that chats to the great and the good of the creative industries, and in particular finds out what makes great music for film, for TV, for commercials, for cooking to, for dancing to, for f***ing to, and more. Today I'm having a gas with Matt Gooden, co-founder of WhoWotWhy. Matt, who is frequently mistaken for that rock star whose name you can't remember, teamed up with Ben Walker and Sean Thompson to create the agency as a means of finding a new challenge in life, which by all accounts, it has been. So what's happened for you personally since March when all the shutters came down?
Well, we've been working all right, to be honest. You know, it's been pretty good, been hectic. We didn't furlough anyone, and we just kept everyone together, and we've picked up quite a bit of new biz, so been pretty mental. All good.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, that's how today is, and usually I like to start these things by going back to what got you into the game and what caused you to become a creative.
Yeah. I left school as soon as I could. When I was about 16, I hated school and went to art college and studied graphic design for a couple of years, and part of that course was was focused on advertising for a couple of months, and I thought that was pretty interesting. I went to see a guy at BBH who was he just shot a Levi's commercial, and he showed me what he'd done and everything. I thought, fucking hell, that sounds looks like a pretty interesting thing to do. So yeah, and then I went from studying graphic design to advertising at Hounslow, and that was that. I did almost choose underwater photography at Plymouth. It was a bit of a 50-50. So I don't know what my life would have ended up like if I'd have taken that path. But
it's not
nice.
It's not the kind of coin flip that a lot of people face, is it? Underwater versus above the line, but
yeah, no, it's a weird one. I think really, I don't know. I do like thinking of. I really love thinking of ideas, and I always have done, and. And then you get to play with all the sort of different creative disciplines of filmmaking and design and what have you. Yeah, it's good.
That's interesting, that, because one of the things I like to ask creatives who've been in the game a long time, you're a good example of that, is what is the argument for young creative people and young artistic people as to why they should get into advertising? Because I don't think it's seen as cool as it was when you got into it.
No, totally not. I mean, when we got into it, the advertising was just so amazing and funny and interesting and, very, very creative. And it was, it's always been the best in the world, really. But yeah, at the moment, I think there's other things that are just far more interesting as creative industries, So it's just really lost its appeal for young people. And it is a shame because maybe they're not exposed to all the sort of things that you do get to play with, And I think at WhoWotWhy we are going to try and do something about that, and start getting into some colleges and showing kids what the career you could have, because it is fantastic.
Yeah, that sounds really definitely sounds encouraging. But you mentioned that there are other more interesting creative disciplines to be getting into. What comes to mind when you say that?
Well, I think I don't know, if I was a creative kid now, I'd probably be looking at game design or, not so much advertising, but definitely sort of digital design stuff, I guess. But I think because advertising isn't that good at the moment, just what's out there doesn't draw you in. So, yeah.
And so you're saying back in, I hate to say back in the day, but back in the day,
back in the fucking long time ago, yeah.
What kind of cool stuff was? What kind of cool stuff was drawing you in? Are we thinking 80s, 90s?
Yeah, sort of 90s, really. I mean, it was really great. I mean, we caught the back end of some of the great Carling ads and beer commercials. Carling, Heineken, Stella, and then all the Levi stuff was pretty amazing that they was doing then. Always used lovely music and built a brilliant brand out of music of that era, at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, just cool stuff.
Yeah, and what do you think's happening at the moment? Do you think it's like what I hear a lot of people saying is there's been a kind of race to the bottom over the last 20 years because the digital side of things, the cheap advertising solutions you can do on social media mean clients are often drawn to think, why spend tens of millions on an above the line campaign when we can just put all of our stuff on digital?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it has something to do with it, but even if it, an idea doesn't have to cost a lot of money to be brilliant. I think in a way it can force you to be more creative when you haven't got the budget to play with. But I don't know. I guess 25, 30 years ago, the whole focus was on film and TV really, and print, which is very, very simple. And then I guess that had a focus creatively, and clients realised that they had to cut through, so they pushed boundaries within those mediums. So, and now it's much more diverse. The way that brands can communicate, and maybe there isn't the focus or the need so much to, I don't know, to really desire that creativity, or maybe people are just a bit safer. I don't know.
Yeah. In times where there's this expanding domain of possibilities, it could be seen as a good time not to rock the boat, maybe. But it is definitely there's definitely a trend. I see a lot of people talking about and saying, I don't know quite what to do about it going from here. But one thing that is common is people say that the influence, the decision-making influence is more on the client side than it is on the agency side, than it was.
Yeah, I agree. Also, I wonder how many, like with the big sort of brand managers, marketing guys in these companies, whether they're really vested in growing the brand long term, or whether it's just a quick turnaround, don't fuck up, deliver the figures in 2 years and then move on to another brand. And I think there's a lot of that going on. I think, I don't know so much, some of the brands that we work with most, they've got they're much more thinking long term about how to build a brand. And I think really good advertising does do that.
Yeah, I spoke to Ben Kay recently, who suggested that one of the reasons that now in 2020 Guinness is not seen as an old man's weird drink is because they did so much long-term brand building in the late 90s.
Yeah, totally. It can totally set a brand up for the future. The sort of Lurpak work that we did, I don't know, was it 15 years ago? It's still kind of rolling now, and I guess at the time they just didn't realise that could happen. But that's really, it's almost bulletproof, that brand.
Yeah.
That was set up there.
Yeah, and it's a weird thing to consider from, not the agency and creative side, but from the consumer side, the fact that there's such a strong brand associated with a fairly generic pack of spreadable butter, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's the power of advertising.
Yeah, massively, yeah.
So when you say Lurpak, was that when you were at Wieden?
Wieden Kennedy, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So tell us about how you got into that creative shop and what it was like being there, because a lot of people speak very fondly of their time at Wieden Kennedy.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, when we first got into the business, there was a bad recession. I think it was sort of early 90s, and I don't think we actually finished our college course, because we was always out going to see people in the industry, and I think we got offered a job before we finished our course, so we just took it because it was a tough time. And some of my friends on that course didn't work for 2 years after they left. It was a pretty tough time. So we got in at Leo Burnett, and we stayed there for about 6 years. Found it difficult to get out because we was making a lot of shit, but we did learn a lot. I think we ended up getting fired, which got us out. So from there we went to Simons Palmer Clemo Johnson, which was a pretty cool little place at the time. Amazing bunch of people that ran that, and all went their separate ways and did amazing things. And then they merged with TBWA, so we ended up there with Trevor, did about 4 years there, and then we went into Wieden Kennedy, which we spent about 10 years at. But Wieden's at that point was absolutely mental. It was so hectic and crazy, and the music was so loud every day. You could hardly hear yourself think. And the MD, she's an Aussie girl. She's great, Amy Smith. She had a drum kit in the reception. She used to play the drums, and it was just insane. But it was a great vibe and really good energy, and the work was amazing. That Tony and Kim, managed to pull out of there. They certainly created something.
Yeah, so we were, I know that we were keen to talk about some more of the Honda work, because obviously I spoke to Sean on one of these, and we talked about Gur and Impossible Dream. But I know you were quite instrumental in the Civic Choir film, weren't you?
Yeah, we did that. I mean, it's a pretty interesting process. I've got one of the books here that I can take some photographs of you, but this is one of the, it's got all the notation and that.
Wow.
Everything, every part of the car, and how the commercial went, and the notes which each singer had to perform. And I can't read music, so I've no idea. I guess you guys find it quite interesting.
Yeah.
So you got start and rev, gravel drive, passing car, into a tunnel, sunroof, all of it. Yeah, quite cool.
Should we take a look at the final film and see how it turned out?
Yeah, sure.
Let's do that.
This is what a Honda feels like.
I really hope all that was visible to you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I haven't seen that for a while.
Brilliant. And that the main thing that immediately sticks out for me is wanting to see the behind the wizard's curtain. I'm like, surely there must have been some actual external sound design in that, but that was all the choir.
Yeah, it was done for real. That we mic'd up the car from every possibility and recorded every single possible sound on the car, and then back in the studio, you sort of break that down into the sound frequencies that go to make up a certain sound, and then see if humans can replicate those. So that was the sort of process, and a lot of experimenting, but it's quite good fun. It is shot beautifully. That's Antoine Bardou-Jacquet again. He shot Cog and some of our Lurpak stuff. I don't know. Overall, I think it's a little bit pompous maybe as an idea. You sort of go, it's I don't know, Honda always felt that it should be a little bit more light-hearted in a way, and I don't know if we quite got that humour out of it. But
Yeah. So is that where you'd say something like The Impossible Dream, while it's grand, there's also a bit of a tongue-in-cheek thing to it?
Yeah, that is a brilliant film. That I absolutely love that film. That is just fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really... were you not on that one?
No, that was Sean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Between me, Ben, and Sean, we managed to produce some pretty cool Honda stuff. Yeah.
So are you three the creative directors who were responsible for, again, the long-term brand building for Honda, turning that into a cool brand?
Yeah, well, really, I mean, Tony and Kim, I mean, they were the ECDs there, and they really pushed it, But the top guy there, Ken Keir, he's a prime example of a client. We work with the day-to-day marketing guys, and some of the times that we'd literally have 6 months to develop, a campaign, which you don't get the luxury of that anymore. And it would go right through the guys that we'd work with every week at Honda, and then it would go to Ken Keir, the top guy, just as a final tick, right? And sometimes he turned around, he went, "It doesn't scare me enough. Go and write something different."
Wow.
And you just go, because he really understood the power of a piece of work that would really break boundaries and cut through. And I think, true to the idea of the power of dreams, an idea that he would buy would be something like, right, I've no idea how you're going to make that, so go and make it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like with Honda Cog, you presented that to him and he went, go on then, go and make that.
So what, like we're going to do an actual working Rube Goldberg machine that isn't CGI?
Exactly, yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. And that was all real, was it, Cog?
Yeah. It had one join in the middle because we couldn't get a studio big enough to get the whole thing up. But yeah.
Amazing. And so that's the kind of courage you aren't seeing at the moment from clients to say, let's stick our necks out and do something that's completely wrong and completely unheard of?
Yeah, well, I don't think that's risky at all. It's more risky to be safe, because the whole point of advertising is to stand out, isn't it? It's like whatever everyone else is doing, don't just do something different.
Yeah, if you're just stood on the same soapbox saying the same words.
Yeah, no point. It's a waste of money, and that's why we talk a lot at WhoWotWhy about breaking rules. And I think work should always do that. Otherwise, it's kind of, it just means you're going to have to spend a lot more on media to get impact.
Brilliant. Yeah.
With Honda Cog, I think that only aired once, and we produced a load of DVDs when DVDs were still a thing, amazingly, and we stuck DVDs on the front of the Guardian and gave it away as a freebie, and then I think it aired once or twice as a film, and that was it.
Yeah.
So it's they didn't spend hardly any on media. I think it was about £1 million to produce the thing, but it just obviously got huge impact for them, and still does, actually.
Well, that's the famous sort of what would you call it? The famous soundbite about the Apple 1984 commercial is that it only aired once.
Yeah, that's it.
Which is I never thought about it that way. I've never thought about the idea that a solid, impressive creative idea can actually save your media spend. Because I say always, I've only been in the industry for 3 years. It's been my understanding that, you spend 50p on the production and then you spend a tenner on the media.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it should be the other way around.
We'd like it to be the other way around, and that's what you guys are trying to do at WhoWotWhy. So talk to me about, when did this alchemy become clear that you, Sean, and Ben were a good team to start a new agency, and why the hell would you do something as stupid as start a new agency?
Yeah, well, I mean, me and Ben, we've worked with Sean for 20 odd years. So, he was at Simons Palmer when we joined there, and him and his partner, Roz, me and Ben joined. We sat in this office, and for 3 months, we just heard Sean and Roz arguing, right, in the office next door. It had thin little partition walls. And they never came out of their office. After about 3 months, Sean came out and went, "Oh, hello, I'm Sean." And that was, and then, so we worked with them there, and then we worked with them worked with Sean all the way through, really. He's always been around and shares such similar standards to us. And that's why, it was always going to work.
And did you guys all move across to Wieden Kennedy at the same time, or did you mix and match and then come back together?
Do you know what? I think Sean came. I can't remember if Sean was there before us or after, to be honest. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. But yeah.
And then when did the conversation happen where you all got together and said, "Let's do this. Let's make our own outfit"?
I think so. Sean, he spent about 8 years in Amsterdam, and he came back from there, and I think we'd just been made redundant from Crispin Porter, fired, whatever.
Yeah. So you were the exec creative at Crispin Porter.
Yeah, me and Ben. Yeah. So yeah, it's just a bit of timing. I think we bumped into him in the street and was like, "Oh wow, you're back from Amsterdam." And then he was doing a bit of freelance at Wieden Kennedy on a big pitch, and he pulled me into that, and I worked with him on that, and then started saying, we've really got to do our own thing. And yeah, we just had enough sort of dough in the bank and a bit of a window to get it going, both of us. So I guess that was the timing was right. And, we really didn't know what we was doing when we sort of started. It was literally sit in a room. We rented a little room off of a photographer mate that we know in his studio. And yeah, just sat there and went, right, what do we do? So it's like, right, register the name, get a bank account, set the website up, start phoning people, client contacts, and saying this, we're here, and it sort of went from there, really.
And that was it, in at the deep end, learning to be accounts and sales as well as creatives, going, right, who's got the brief? I need to do some work.
Yeah, exactly. And then Marissa, Sean's missus, she is a lot more business savvy than us three. So again, she was in it from the start, really, and making sure that everything was set up right. And, we had insurance and all the things that you don't think about, when you start something like this. So we couldn't have done it without her, to be honest.
No, I sensed when I came and visited you guys that Marissa was the thing that makes the machine work, makes it all go.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. She said something brilliant, actually, because you got, who did those caricatures? There's 3 caricatures of you, Ben and Sean.
Yeah, I think it was Rebecca, one of our girls' friends, Rebecca.
Yeah, and I said to Marissa, I was like, you've got these 3, but where's your caricature? And she goes, well, it's who, what, why, not how much.
I love that. That's a good quote.
And I thought she should put that on her office.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. On the on the work side of things at Who What Why, when did stuff start rolling in, and what's the thing you've done that you've been proudest of?
I mean, to be honest, creatively, it's been a mad, huge struggle and hard work to get going. It really has, and to really sort of pick up a piece of business that made a difference. It was Skybet, and that came through our previous relationship with the guys who used to work at Paddy Power, and they moved to Skybet. So, and then we got the opportunity to pitch for that piece of business, and that is the one thing that really got us going as a business, because it was a proper retained ongoing account. And Ben's all over it. He loves his sport and betting, so that's why we're really sort of, we know our stuff when it comes to that sort of category. So that was the one thing that really got us going. And I guess creatively, I don't know. I think, I love the actual filmmaking of Gift Gaff was great, because Shawnee shot that, and that was fantastic, and it was a lovely film. So that was pretty cool. And then recently the Spotify work has been going down very well, picking up lots of awards. So pretty proud of that.
Does that feel like with the Spotify thing? Is that a passing of the sort of baton moment? Because as far as I'm aware, it's your creatives. I believe they're called Ali and Matt. Is it?
Jack and Ali. Yeah.
Jack. I always get that wrong.
Yeah,
and so
great.
they wrote the copy, did they?
Yeah, no, I had nothing to do with it, to be honest, but I'm still proud of it. Proud that it came out of the agency, you know, Shawnee sort of ECD'd it, and the guys, wrote all the work, and they deserve everything, you know, all the credit completely.
Brilliant.
But, I'm still proud that it, managed to work with a brand like that and get some great work out. It's great.
So how did you get your relationship going with Spotify?
Do you know what? I can't even remember. I mean, a lot of these brands now, they do have a sort of roster of agencies. I'm not quite sure how that one came in, to be honest. Sean probably will know more than me.
So while we're on the Spotify thing, you made this playlist for us of your top tracks. Talk us through it one at a time.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's quite a hard thing to do, isn't it? A top 10. And I really love music so much. When I was my parents had a brilliant record collection growing up, so I was exposed to lots of different music. You know, I guess 70% of their collection was jazz, but they had everything. They had the Stones, the Beatles, lots of Stevie Wonder, all sorts of stuff, really. So. Yeah, so I was exposed to an awful lot of music when I was a kid, and I guess when I was thinking of the top 10, like Give Me Shelter, I'm a massive Stones fan, and Give Me Shelter is easily my number one of all time. Yeah, it just stands out for me, and not just as a top Stones track, but it's just the best song ever been written.
No one's ever quite done an intro like that, have they?
Just haunting. It's amazing. And I think also it's a period in time when it was 69, sort of ended the Flower Power thing, and they did a live show at the Altamont in the States, and some Hells Angels stabbed a fella, and it just was moody. It was a bad time, and it felt like, I don't know, it just captured that moment. And in a way, I quite like those sort of moody, dark places that music can go to, and I reckon that song really did inspire sort of like Sabbath, and it swung music in a different direction for me, that tune.
Yeah, it felt like an appropriate anthem for the end of the 60s.
It is, yeah, that's what they say. I mean, they say that Altamont gig was kind of the end of it as a festival, and to me that Give Me Shelter really captures the emotion of that moment as well, I think.
Yeah.
Amazing song. And then, to pick 10, an all-time top 10, I was thinking, what are the tunes that I've played the most and I never ever get sick of?
Yeah.
And one of these is like that for me.
Yeah, all of these. We've got obviously Massive Attack. Yeah.
Just incredible. I mean, that is such an amazing song. I was sort of looking at these, thinking about these the other night as well, and I think a lot of these, it's about the production as well on them. Unfinished Sympathy is just the absolute, it's a masterpiece. It's like, that is a modern piece of genius, I think. It's just incredible.
And when you say the production, you're saying it's like a lot of these, it's not that you could take the song out of its context as a record and just have the words and the tune, and it wouldn't still have the same impact. You need it in that context. Yeah,
I think. I mean, sort of what a producer brings to a band and a song and a piece of music is untold, isn't it?
Yeah, and so, but this list says, obviously it goes back a long time. But like you said, music's always been a very central part of your life as a creative. But have you never been drawn to like create music? Was that never your field?
Yeah, I'd love to, but I'm just not talented enough. I mean, I play the guitar and drums, but you know, it's only really messing around, and I'm tone deaf. I can't tune a guitar, so it's just not my natural talent at all.
Yeah.
You know, I love it and it's good fun, but
yeah. You've got
make a living.
You've got a pretty impressive drum kit in your offices at WhoWotWhy, haven't you?
Yeah, that's not bad, that one. Yeah, that's Rebecca's. That's not mine.
Oh, right.
Yeah, she's a lot better than me.
Yeah, well, I couldn't comment on that, but I certainly hope so, based on the description of yourself you just gave. So, but yeah, so it's an important thing for you. And was it one of these records? I mean, it could have been "Gimme Shelter." Was there a record that, when you were a teenager, set the ball rolling and felt like it changed your life?
I mean, I don't think so, really. I think because I was exposed to so much music, I never really had that moment, I guess. The only one I can think of, the only record I can think of that I don't think it changed my life, but it was a moment, and that was Nirvana's Nevermind when that came out.
Yeah.
And I remember I was working at Leo Burnett, and I queued up outside Our Price in the morning, or Tower Records, or one of those shops, right? And I bought the LP and went back to the agency, and there was a big all-staff agency meeting in the cinema next door, you know, a yearly thing that they used to do. And I didn't bother going to it, and I went into the agency and I had a record player, and the whole agency was empty. And I just put that on, and you just go, holy shit, that is a record and a half, isn't it? It's just, yeah. But I don't know if it changed my life.
No.
But
yeah, that might be the thing that's distinctive here, because people I speak to, strangely, when in their case music isn't the central aspect of their life, they're more likely to say that a single record did do something for them.
Yeah, I think that's understandable.
Yeah. So back onto the creative world. There's one thing that you mentioned to me that we've not discussed, was some run-in you had with U2 when you were doing work for Nokia.
It wasn't a run-in. They was great. So me and Ben used to run the Nokia global account, and they used to do a lot of stuff for their music store and their music phones and what have you. And they had done a deal with U2, you know, that allowed them to do sort of a project with them, launch a music phone with it. So, you know, this was about Christmas time, and I came back from the Christmas break, and the account guys went, look, you've got to write some ideas for U2. They've got a new album out. It's going to be a promotion to promote their new album with a new Nokia music phone. And you've got a week to write the ideas, and then you've got to go to Dublin and present your work to U2. So that was a pretty mad experience. Yeah, it was fun. But Bono was amazing, you know, really good, really receptive to you know, marketing and advertising and technology. You know, you can sort of tell that the band were always, you know, they've always had an eye on that. You know, they're hugely, you know, smart when it comes to stuff like that.
They weren't some anti-establishment, anti-technology, we're just rock and rollers. Obviously, it's U2, isn't it?
Far from it. You know, I think they've, you know, almost the opposite in a way. Larry, the drummer, he was very suspicious. And he was the guy, I think he set the band up, didn't he, Larry? So
yeah,
they've, he was just sat at the end of the table and frowned at me a lot. And but I don't know, I guess they sent me as well, because I look like what I do. So I had the most chance of connecting with them. But
right, you mean because you looked like that term that you loathe, the rock star.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, maybe I'm a bit of a rock star cliche looking, I guess, but yeah. But it's a shame it never worked out, because the deal fell through. And the actual idea that we presented to them that they liked was, you know, I said, look, you're a band that's famous for huge stadium gigs, and what if we shot a video for you, but it's in the most confined possible space, but it's broadcast live on all these phones. So it was a time when streaming really just started kicking off, and it made it possible. And Bono really liked that idea. I thought it would have been fun to make.
But I also
that Cure video of Close to Me that Tim Pope shot of the Cure in a wardrobe. We're sort of thinking of something like that, really confined space. And but it's broadcast in an epic way.
I also suspect it was one of those ideas that was a bit too advanced for its time, because we're talking about Nokia, so obviously this is before the smartphone revolution, so the idea of live streaming a video, whilst achievable, was still like very, very difficult with the technology that you had available.
Yeah, it was at the time when it was just possible. And Nokia always, they embraced new technology like that. It's a shame they didn't really jump on the smartphone thing enough, to be honest. They kind of frowned or dismissed Apple, and thought that they were, just weren't a threat at the time.
Trying to get into a market that wasn't theirs.
Because Nokia had 40% of the global mobile market at that time. It's huge, and Apple were like 1% or something. So, but that time changed, didn't it?
Oh yeah, the next 10 years did really do a number on, well, for Apple, what I imagine they're probably now the 40%ers, if not more, aren't they?
Totally, yeah. But that idea with U2, it fell through, but it turned out all right, because we ended up shooting with the Dead Weather, which was amazing. In a recording studio at the Hospital Club in Soho. They got a mad recording studio downstairs, and it's amazing. And I kind of had a whole day of the Dead Weather performing to me. It's pretty amazing. And so mad. Sophie Muller, who's a legendary promo director, shot it. And then that was broadcast live. So we did it with them. It's good fun.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so on the idea that I just briefly want to sort of pry that open a bit more, that when you're talking about hating things being referred to as rock star when they aren't. Because when I spoke to Sean for having a gas, he said, it's great. I don't know if you saw it. He said, it's great going out with Matt because everyone thinks you're with an actual rock star. They probably think you're Iggy Pop or something, but they're too shy to ask.
No, sometimes I do get asked, but yeah.
But you don't like the term, I understand, being applied to just anyone.
No, I mean, to me, like rock stars, to me, right, they are just incredible, gifted, talented. Iggy Pop, God, I mean, what he's done and achieved, and he's, they're almost immortal, aren't they, these guys? They shouldn't be alive. So, I don't know, you can't apply that term to anyone else who doesn't, sort of create the things that they do and can do.
I had my time as a teenager, and probably longer into my 20s than I'd care to admit, of wanting to be one of those people and wanting that kind of a lifestyle. But I also think that it's for the chosen few, and it really does have its pitfalls. Mostly they tend to run into some trouble that you wouldn't recommend. For, like obviously Iggy had all of his trouble with heroin, and the same with a lot of them. You look at the top bands of all time, someone usually dies. The Beatles, Queen, Stones, Zepp.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a mad world. I think, to me, I think musicians sort of have to go to a dark place to write brilliant stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's where the best music comes from, and probably always has. That's blues, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's kind of about struggle and expression of, how you're feeling and what have you. Yeah.
Do you keep your ear to the ground with what's emerging now in the hip hop world, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit disillusioned with rock music at the moment, but I've got, I've kind of got really into the dance stuff, to be honest. And,
Great.
it doesn't quite have the sort of longevity of a great rock track, but there's so much of it being produced. I sort of get obsessed with a tune 1 week, and then you get sick of it after a week. But that's all right because there's something else coming along.
Yeah,
It's got a different kind of thing. You have a different relationship with that sort of music, but I find it more exciting for sure. Than rock stuff around now.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? There's that in the early parts of I suppose still this decade, 2011, 12. There was a lot of noise going on about is there any future for guitar-based music, or and some people would say, well, it's had a long period of, let's call it, dominance, and now it's on the back foot. So it's just adjusting to this new landscape of just becoming part of the landscape. But yeah, I know what you mean. There's not much in the way of guitar music proper that isn't also fused with something else at the moment.
Yeah, that's it. I think a lot of when new genres of music come through, often it's always connected with culture, isn't it? And that's often a backlash with what went before. It's usually always that, isn't it? It's rebelling against, what is popular at the time. And I wonder if music's so fragmented now, there isn't that one vocal thing to backlash against in a way. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't know. I wondered, because in the 90s, when I was 20 odd, that was just the most amazing time for music, because you had the great guitar bands, you had the American stuff, the Nirvanas and Seattle stuff, and then you had the Britpop thing over here, you had the dance thing over here, you had the hip hop thing, Run DMC and Public Enemy and Left Field Underworld, all of this stuff. And it was like, we used to go to clubs and they'd play all of it, which is great. I love that.
Yeah, it sounds like you're describing a time where there were a few genres, but they all had a very robust kind of presence, whereas and they were very present in the mainstream, whereas now anyone can listen to anything, so not much gets any attention at all.
Yeah, that's it. The Reading Festival during that period in Glastonbury, it's like, holy shit, it's like, literally it would, year after year, it'd be Run DMC, Pulp, Blur. I saw Rage Against the Machine at Glastonbury. You just go, oh, God. It's brilliant bands.
What year were you there?
Oh God, I don't know. What was that? Rage. I don't know. It would have been mid-90s, I guess. Maybe
if it was 94, then you were there with Gary, who because that was the year that Johnny Cash was on the Legend stage.
Right. Yeah. It could have been. I'm so fucking old. The first time I went to Glastonbury, there was no fence around it.
Yeah, it's been there for 20 years now, hasn't it, or something?
Yeah, and then the next year we went, and there was a 6-foot fence, and we jumped over that. The next year, the fence went up to about 12 foot, and these kids had dug a tunnel under the fence, and you came up in their tent, and you paid them $5, and you was
genius.
It's brilliant, yeah.
Like the Great Escape or something.
Double fences and a 12-foot fucking no man's land with guard dogs, and that was, you had to start buying tickets then.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to get in 3 times in the last decade, and I don't mean get in over the fence. I mean actually get a ticket, because that's the new challenge. Is how the hell do you get a ticket? Everyone just logs on and refresh. But yeah, it is like it is like a military base around the edge now, and patrols and
crazy.
Yeah. When was last time you went?
Fuck, I went not for a long time. I haven't been in the past, I don't know, 15 years maybe.
No.
Yeah.
Did you get out to much live music before COVID?
No, what did I see? I saw the Super Suckers at 100 Club. That was quite good fun. What else did I see? No, I mean, I haven't been going to enough live music. I do think it's massively important for people to support these live venues. It's incredible. I do miss it. I was looking at some live stuff. I do an Instagram thing called JCDC, where it's all tracks and it's all around religion and music. So any song with Jesus lyrics in, or connected to religion. And I was looking at some spiritualized. Spaceman 3 did a song called Walking with Jesus, and I was looking at some of their live performances, and they're just an incredible band, and it really made me miss music.
Yeah, I suspect there's going to be a renewed interest when the shutters lift and they say you can congregate again.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
What's the thing you've missed the most during this lockdown period or this strange era of history we're living through?
I mean, going to the pub, really, isn't it? It's like simple stuff. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let me just look, given the game away, looking at my prepared questions just in case there's anything we haven't covered.
My prepared answers, that's all right.
Well, that was the thing. It was the one thing we haven't covered. Interesting. Music choices in commercials. So there's one, I suppose we've covered it with the U2 thing, which is there a music choice that you put forward to a client and you were so wedded to it, you really wanted it to pass and the client didn't want it?
I don't think so. But really, I would never, ever put forward a track that I really, really love. Because I think some tunes and songs, they're just not, I don't know, in a way, I do find advertising a little bit dirty when it comes to the creative world. And, I think to put a song that is epic, like any of those top 10 songs, I'd never ever put onto a commercial for me.
I mean, many of them you wouldn't be able to afford, but I get where you're coming from. That's interesting, actually. I was chatting to a few people on this, and there's this kind of debate that goes on about, obviously the Beatles and the Stones are forever going to be compared, and one thing that's been said is that the Stones have done better with their legacy than the Beatles. So the Beatles had a bigger impact maybe at the time, but the Stones have just had a better long-term brand.
Yeah, I guess that's because they're all together though, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if Adam was still alive, I don't know.
Yeah. Have you seen the Stones recently?
I saw them, I think they played at the Olympic Stadium. I think that was the last time. But I hadn't, throughout my life, I hadn't seen them till probably, they played at Hyde Park about 5 years ago, I think.
I think it was, about 7 years ago, that one, yeah.
Yeah, that was the first time that I saw them.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know, I could have done, but I was kind of really, really nervous about seeing them because they're so important to me.
Yeah.
And it was like, I remember before that show, I was in the pub with some mates and I was shaking and it felt like my wedding day. And it was like, oh shit, what are they gonna turn up? Are they gonna be great? I felt nervous about it, and it's weird. They were absolutely amazing.
Well, of course, yeah. I get maybe there's this thing as well of if you've always been around in your life. The Stones have always been around. You can end up thinking, I'll get around to seeing them one day. And people often miss things like that, like people never saw the Smiths or, Queen for that reason.
Bowie was the one. I never saw Bowie. Absolutely gutted about that. Yeah. That's my one regret in life, that is.
How'd you feel about the way he went out, that last album, that era?
Yeah, it's not bad, that album. It's got some interesting stuff on it, definitely. Yeah.
Best Bowie album?
Best Bowie.
Yeah.
Ziggy Stardust, and what's the first one? Yeah, Ziggy Stardust, and I think the first 6 songs on that.
Yeah, your Diamond Dogs is one for me.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, my mum and dad had all those records, when I was a kid. So.
Yeah, it's one of those where that's an enviable person to be for a creative, because most people, if they had that many phases and different looks, you'd kind of think, oh, like they can't decide who they want to be. But for some reason with Bowie, he just had the confidence to work it. It's like, this is how I am now.
Yeah, totally. He, you know, I think, you know, some bands just get stuck in their thing, don't they? And you just go, you got to refresh yourself, you know. I think Primal Scream have done pretty well doing that. They've had some fucking well diverse albums. You know, they're one of my huge, you know, hugely influential bands for me, and you know, I've seen them many times.
Yeah. So I imagine that was probably the Glastonbury that you could have done with being at, where it was Primal and then the Rolling Stones on Saturday night.
Yeah, right. That would have been a good one. Yeah, for sure.
I missed out on tickets on that one though, so there's no beating anyone up about that. But yeah, cool. Right. Well, I know you're a busy guy and you're preparing for a holiday. So so thanks for chatting, and obviously hope we can see you in London again whenever the time seems right. Hopefully sometime before the end of the year, maybe not.
Yeah.